So the question came up today about those times when someone cancels your contract and there's still money owed. And let's look at that just a little bit. For most of us, we have our contracts out there that they have a clause in that if it's canceled within so many days of the event, that the balance is due in full. Some people, if it's canceled within 2 months, some 45 days, some 30 days, whatever it is. The thing with that is that you've got your retainer down. Some people have it set up into payments and such, but generally there is still a balance due at that point in time. And then they cancel, 30 days out and you had a 45-day cancellation window. What are you going to do about that? First up, the idea is that technically, according to the contract that they signed, they still owe you that the balance for the event and the day. So let's just use some simple numbers. Say you have a $1,000 contract, you wanted a $100 retainer, and you are owed $900. Now, the chance of getting that $900, from some people, you might have a chance. You can remind them and say, hey, I thank you. They get that cancellation email or that letter, whatever it is. Your reply to them is basically to say, hey, thank you for the note. I needed that to process the paperwork. But we're within the window of cancellation, which means that according to the contract which you signed, that the balance is due. And then you send it back to them. Now, most of the time, they're going to look at that and say, yeah, there's no way I'm paying that. It's just the way it is. I don't know of many people. There are some, but I don't know of many people who would look at that and say, yes, I'm going to pay off everyone when their wedding, as an example, has been canceled. It just doesn't happen. So now you are in that position. Your date has been held. Your date is now open, and you're probably within that time frame where you're not going to be able to rebook that. And that's a problem because for our inventory of dates is very limited. We only have so many. So what are you going to do about that? Well, you could demand payment. They're not going to pay. You could take them to small claims court, which involves you going to the county, filing the paperwork in the county in which they are at, and then there's a fee to doing that. And then you have to go to a small claims court with your proof that you are out the money and that they owe you. You may win. You may win your $900 in our example, but most likely you won't. If you win anything, you might win a percentage. And what the judge will say is that you didn't render services for that day. And yes, your date is inventory, but you should have that figured out in your business. And there's an assumed loss within your business. So we're going to, instead of awarding you the $900, we might award a payment of $300 plus your fee, the court fee. That's not going to get you very far. And there's a lot of stress and different things involved with getting just a fraction of that. You might get the judge who says, well, you had your retainer. That covers your expenses. That should be covering your expenses up until this point. And you didn't render services, so you don't need any more money. You are good. And we find that there's nothing. Everyone goes home and you're out your $40 or $60 or $100, whatever it is for the court filing fee. Those are the two most likely scenarios from small claims court. You very seldom win when DJs are going to go and take people to court like that. Once you win, now you have to collect. And for many times, there's no way to collect. People are like, yeah, whatever, and they don't care. They're not going to pay you. Some people have gone as far as to put a lien on the property, which you can't go and actually do anything about that until they go to sell the property. So I know a couple of DJs who have done that. They've had $1,000+ contracts. They've filed that lien against the property. Now, eventually, when they're going to get a mortgage, or eventually when they're going to sell, they will have to satisfy the DJ's lien before the property can be transferred or mortgaged. So they're going to get some money eventually, and they'll get some penalties and interest and whatever. But is it worth all of that hassle? That's the big question. So let's go back. How do we fix this? The best way to fix this is to have your retainer. And if you want to make sure that, say, 60 days out, you need to make sure you have a payment by 60 days out, or maybe 3 months out, whatever. But you need to have another payment that comes in. So that between that retainer and that second payment that's before your cutoff date, that second payment will basically be the thing that will cover you, that if they do cancel inside that window, you're not going to be hurt too bad. So you've got your initial $100, and maybe now the second payment is half of the balance due, so it's $450. If that would be the case, now you've got $550 in, and now the last 450 in essence would have been the money that was paid to the talent for the day, or however you want to look at it. But at least you've minimized the loss for those who have to cancel that month out. And then you're not trying to chase after someone in the stress and the strain and the different things that are involved with going to small claims court and maybe not even winning after going there. So that's probably the best way to handle this, is to have it where there's a secondary payment that is due 30 days before your deadline for canceling. That way, if they don't make the payment and you've talked to them and said, hey, I've got to have this payment, and if they're like, oh, we canceled our wedding, and now you know, and you can hopefully be able to rebook the date or something 3 months out instead of 2 months out, or whatever it turns out to be, and hopefully not be out the money you need to run your DJ business.